Hello and welcome to the Career Corner where we answer your career cues. I'm your host, Lukas Kauffman. Today we've got an awesome guest talking about something that we have not talked about really on the Career Corner before. Very exciting stuff today. We'll be diving inside the NFL's data-driven game with our guest today, Maddy Blomkvist. Maddy, welcome to the Career Corner.
Thank you so much for having me, Lucas. I'm excited to be here today.
And we're so excited to have you. So, jumping right into things, tell us about yourself, what your background is, and what led you to pursue a career in data analysis.
Yeah, absolutely. So I graduated from IC in 2022, got my Bachelor of Science in Business Administration, so in the business school, concentrated in sport management and marketing, as well as had a minor in business analytics. So it was a little all over the place. But again, like I enjoyed my 4 years at Ithaca so much, and was fortunate enough to have an opportunity right out of graduation to move to New York City and work for the New York Mets. So again, really great use of my sport management degree.
Let's go,
Um,
Mets.
and oh, I don't know about that.
Whoa!
I'm a Yankees fan. I'm a Yankees fan. But
Gotcha. Okay.
for the right opportunity and having something right out of school, like it was a total no-brainer for me.
For sure, for sure.
But yeah, worked for the Mets. I was doing ticket sales for them, but again, I love baseball and I love New York, so it was the perfect opportunity. But while I was there gaining that experience in ticket sales, also had the opportunity to know like be in a front office of a sports team. So had the opportunity to connect with some people on the R&D side, which is research and development, BI, all that stuff. And again, having the minor in business analytics at Ithaca, I was really able to say, hey, I think this could be a huge area of opportunity for me. But in order to get myself from point A to point B, there's definitely a technical skill set that I'm going to have to build up a little bit more. Just again, only having the minor in it, I'm like, okay, this seems really cool. Let's move forward with this. So I ended up going back to school, pursued a master's at Lehigh University, did my master's of business analytics there, concentrated in marketing analytics. And again, was just really the perfect opportunity for me to get that skill set I wanted to move in a direction where, I could take a position as a data analyst, wherever that might be. And it was a wonderful opportunity. Like a master's is no joke. Like it was a strenuous program, but again, it equipped me with all the tools I need to be where I am today. So currently I'm working at the NFL as a data analyst. So it's really been an incredible opportunity so far. I've been here for about 2 months now and, learning something new every day, which I think is important regardless of what your job is. But yeah, incredibly grateful to be in the position I am. But with that being said, doesn't come without hard work and rolling your sleeves up. So it's good stuff, good stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. So, would you be able to walk us through a typical day or project that you kind of work on as a data analyst at the NFL?
Yeah, so as you can imagine with the league, like there's a lot of different people that have the same title as a data analyst. In my position specifically, I work on our CDS team, which is Club Data Services. So I'm working more as almost like a consultant on behalf of the league. So my group that I work with, it's 5 of us. We're assigned to a certain pod with the league. So we have 8 specific teams that we work with, which are all on the West Coast, which is pretty funny because I live on the East Coast. So we work with those 8 teams, and our big focus with them is getting them file and data compliant in the eyes of the league. So previously with the NFL, like for myself example, I live in New Jersey. So let's say I go to Jets games, I go to Giants games, but I'm a Buffalo Bills fan because I lived in Ithaca for 4 years. So previously, I would exist as a fan in those 3 individual databases. What we're trying to do now is sort of consolidate all that data underneath the NFL's umbrella, just so we can better market to you. Instead of saying, oh, Maddy Blomkvist, she like gets this email, she gets this email, they're able to more fine-tune the process and just make it a little bit easier and more enjoyable for the fan, because at the end of the day, fans are the biggest concern of the league. So with that being said, every day does look a little bit different. There's some days where I'm focused on problem solving and more like hands-on keyboard fixing different issues that some of our teams bring to our attention. Other days I'm more focused on its presentation is a huge aspect of it, just because again, like the hands-on keyboard stuff is great and really interesting, but if you're not able to explain that and make those connections, what type of analysis are you doing? You know what I mean? But yeah, no, again, it comes with learning the position, but so far, I mean, again, learning something new every day, which is a huge priority for me. And just again, continuing to better myself as an analyst and as a professional as a whole.
Incredible. And I would love if you could share more specifically, obviously the fans are the focus here. What kind
Yeah.
of decisions are your data informing?
Yeah. So we see like from each of those 8 teams that fall within our pod, right? We get 5, I don't want to say little files because these are like millions of entries in each of them. So what we see within those is we see an overarching fan file, which is going to be made up of like, first name, last name, date of birth, address, email address, like I don't want to say the not so fun stuff, but stuff that is important nonetheless. In addition to that, we see a CRM file, which is customer resource management. So that's, again, going back to my ticket sales pass, that's where you see all that information of who's reaching out to this fan, how are they interacting with like different websites, so on and so forth that belong to that specific team. We also see a merch file. So when you're going online and you're buying your merchandise to represent your favorite NFL team, we see that data. Um, oh my gosh, I'm totally drawing a blank. We see an email file as well, which pretty self-explanatory, any sort of email information. And the last file we see, which I'd see is the most interesting, we see food and beverage. So when you're actually in person at a fill in the blank game, how are you interacting with different concessions and everything, which again, considering everything else we look at, it's definitely a bit more out there, but helps again better understand the fan, understand tendencies that they have. And again, just end goal is always streamlining the process for them. So it's interesting stuff.
Incredible, incredible. So obviously you've reached this point in your career, and I wanted to ask you, so obviously people are always looking to reach the ultimate goal of their career, and I was wondering where you're at in kind of your, like, I mean, the ladder or wherever. How far into your career are you? Do you see yourself progressing to higher up positions, or do you feel comfortable where you are and like you've reached the end goal of your goals?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. I know, like, again, I'm only about like 2 years out of IC at this point. So I think I definitely see myself growing in the future. I've been really fortunate again, like, again, only being 2 years out, I've worked for a baseball team. I'm now working for the NFL. While I was doing my master's, I worked for the NBA. Like, I've really kind of collected all these different leagues that are things that people like well into their careers are lucky to do. And I've been super fortunate to kind of check all those boxes so early. But like end goal for me would definitely be like continuing down this path as an analyst. I think it's such a huge growing field. Like I joke with like my colleagues and my boss, like these positions we have didn't exist 5, 10 years ago. So who can even imagine what they're going to look like 5, 10 years from now, which is equally really exciting, but also leaves a lot to the imagination. Because again, like we have so much data on fans, we have so much data on what happens in the field, like everything that happens, like there is data to prove it. So it's really interesting and exciting to see like the potential direction that not only the NFL but professional sports in general can head in the future.
Amazing. And I know you're only 2 years out, so I'm gonna ask you to look back, and it should be pretty easy. You're looking back to not too long ago. What
Yeah.
advice would you have for students who are looking to break into this field of sports data analysis, especially if they're wanting to get involved with a larger organization like the NFL or the NBA? Any advice?
I think networking is so huge in an industry like this, which I feel like it is in a lot of places. But my biggest piece of advice would be like, don't hesitate to send that LinkedIn message to somebody who has a job that you think is really cool, that you could picture yourself doing something similar one day. I know that was something I was really apprehensive to do just because, it's a little awkward at first reaching out to a total stranger, but ultimately that is how I got my position with the NFL. I reached out to an alumni from Lehigh that I had like again just graduating with my master's. I was like, you know what, this guy has a really interesting position. Let me reach out, like talk to him a little bit, see what's going on, see what he does. And again, like obviously not every situation works out just like that. Like there were plenty of messages I sent out on LinkedIn that, sometimes you get ghosted, but I think that's part of the process is finding somebody who, is really willing to take you under their wing and help point you in the right direction. But I think like again, I can't sit here and be like, it's the easiest thing ever to reach out to somebody over LinkedIn. But I think once you're able to overcome that, it's such a great tool, especially like with I again totally could not picture working for the league this soon right out of school. Cause again, like it having the name NFL on your resume is not something I like kind of like take lightly. I understand that it's a huge company and it's an absolute honor to like again, even be able to represent that name. But it's really like, again, once you're able to kind of jump over that hurdle and reach out, it opens up a lot of doors for you.
Awesome. Incredible. Great piece of advice. Not just for your specific career. I think great advice
Yeah.
across the board. We get almost everybody when we ask, they're like, send out cold emails, get in touch with these people who are in the field. So yeah, great
Absolutely.
advice, specifically and generally. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
It's still looking back, or maybe looking more into the present. What have been some of the more challenging aspects of your career in the world of sports analytics, and how have you overcome them?
Yeah, I think that goes back to, like, my time at the Mets, like, recognizing, like, I if this is something that I really wanna pursue, if being an analyst is, like, the area I wanna head in, being able to equip yourself with those, like, technical tools that you need in a role like this. So again, obviously, going back to school, getting a master's is great, but these are skills that you should be continuing to build every single day. Like, I'm in whatever platform I'm in every day, coding, hands-on keyboard, all that great stuff. But it definitely, like, I after I graduated with my master's, I was like, "Okay, cool, like, I know how to code, I'm ready for anything," but it's very much more than that, which is again, it's an important thing to recognize because it's one thing to be able to just, like, do assignments in class and feel good about that and get an A on a project, but it's another thing to find that success in the workplace where you're not getting a grade and it's real world stuff. It's not nice little data sets that are designed for little projects that you do with your classmates. So I think that's like an area where like, I'm always looking to improve. I'm always looking to build that skill set. But again, fortunate to have built it with a master's, but always on the horizon to learn more and do more in that direction.
Awesome. Yeah. And along the same vein, is there anything that is not really what you were expecting, something that you had a different expectation of that is actually different in the real world versus how you were anticipating it to be while you're still in school?
I would say again, I touched on this earlier, but the presentation aspect, I think data analysts, whether it's in sports or not, they kind of get a weird rep of like, oh, they're just like nerdy little keyboard people who just work all day, which partially is true. But again, like I said, like your analysis isn't effective unless you're able to convey it to the group you're presenting to. So whether that's, like putting together a nice data visualization or you're putting together even something as simple as like PowerPoint slides. I think presentation is such a crucial aspect in the success of any data analyst, NFL or not. And again, not something I really expected coming into the role, but I was definitely pleasantly surprised by it.
What has been one of the most memorable moments or projects that you've worked on or experienced in your career so far?
As I mentioned, when I was doing my master's, I had the opportunity to work for the NBA. They had a developmental program on their end, which again was kind of looking for like the next like up and coming future analytics stars was what it was called. So I'm not just saying that, even though it sounds corny. And through that, I was working on a capstone project for them. So with the project, I was I was given this data coming from the Golden State Warriors. It was a lot of their like ticketing data from their stadium. And what we were tasked with doing was creating some sort of like seat accuracy score. So based on a lot of different factors, whether that's, like like what they're assigning the price to be as the Golden State Warriors, the average price of what it's going for on SeatGeek, the point in the season we're at, all these different factors. Um, we wanted to try and calculate, okay, based on how these different factors behave, how can we get the best possible value for this seat from the team perspective. So this project was really the first opportunity I had again um, to really test out like all these technical skills I had been working so hard on building with my master's in an area that I was so interested in. Like at that point, I had had a couple semesters worth of finals, which were great, and had some really like found success in those projects. But to really be able to like I don't know, it was such a passion project for me, to be able, again, to use these skills I worked hard on in an area that I'm interested in. It was literally, like, best case scenario. So through that project, was able to, create a nice model, put together some nice PowerPoint slides, all that great stuff. But where I really found the most sort of, like, I guess, success in the project, was presenting it to the group of other students that I was in that program with for the NBA. Because again, you're getting feedback from people who are also like equally as driven in that field and passionate about it. It was just like, I don't want to say you like nerd out a little bit, but it was just really great to like feel that energy reciprocated and get feedback and be able to tweak it and end with a product that I was really proud of. So again, even though it wasn't for any sort of like grade or any sort of like work project, it's something that even looking back at it now, I'm super proud of and really happy with the outcome of.
Amazing. Yeah, that's gotta feel an incredible being surrounded by people who are just as passionate about something as you, and I think it's okay to geek out. I geek out all the time about stuff that I'm passionate about, so it's always a great experience.
Awesome. Yeah, no, nothing wrong with geeking out. Nothing.
Nothing wrong with geeking out. That's another piece of advice for today. And then also
Totally.
earlier, you mentioned, speaking of geeking out, you mentioned that people have this kind of perception of data analysts as these like desk nerdy people. I was wondering if there are any other things that like maybe like misconceptions people have about your position that you want to kind of clear up and tell them, it's not like this, it's more like this.
Yeah, I think that comes so that probably the example I made before is definitely the biggest one because again, like any sort of analyst, like you get that rep. But my position with the league is completely remote. Which again, like I feel like remote work gets sort of the reputation of sometimes being like a little alienating, a little like very much like every person for themselves sort of thing. But from what I've found with my time with the league is it has been like nothing like I could have ever imagined. Because again, like coming from the Mets, like working in ticket sales, I was on the phone every day talking to people. I was in the office every day. I was at pretty much every single home game that happened at the stadium. So to go from that to working totally remote, I definitely had like some hesitation at first just because it was so different. And full transparency, never really expected myself to be like a remote work type of person. But from what I found, like I think it's because my team is so like there's 5 of us that I'm working with on a daily basis. But I think we really like are able to lean on each other. I'm able to reach out to anybody and like ask for a helping hand, and there's never any hesitation with providing that. And it really has just been such a pleasant surprise that I was not expecting. But again, if that's something that like deters people away from a remote position, I'm here to appease your fears and let you know that it really can be like such a great like team working opportunity.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking earlier, I said go Mets, and you said, well, I don't know about that because you're a Yankees fan, and you mentioned being a baseball fan, and I don't know if you're a football fan as much or
Mm.
not, but I was wondering how important is, obviously you were with the Mets, you were working somewhere where you weren't necessarily a fan of that team. How important is that to you, and would you ideally be working in a position where you are getting to do analysis for your favorite teams? How much does that matter for you?
Yeah, I think like for me coming right out of my master's, it was more just about the right opportunity. And same thing with coming out of Ithaca and working for the Mets. Like at that, like I was just looking, to like find a really great opportunity where I'd be like excited going into work every day and building the experience. I think it is like absolute dream opportunity to get to do that for your favorite team. As I mentioned before, I'm a Yankees fan, but I'm also a diehard Bills fan. So like if the opportunity comes where I get to work for the Bills, I would definitely not be complaining. I think for me, it was more just about, again, being able to use the technical skill set I built on a daily basis and continuing to build those skills. But if the Bills are ever if they want to like shoot me an email, I will never turn that away. But yeah, no, I'm fortunate again to be, my teams are all on the West Coast. The 49ers are actually one of my teams, and I just got off a call with them and they were talking about the Bills game and felt kind of good, but but no, it's again, it's the right place, right time, and if something happens where you're able to work for your favorite team, I mean, that's just a dream come true.
Incredible. Well, Maddie, we are reaching the close here of our time in the career corner, but I want to open the floor to you. Is there anything else that you want to share with our listeners that we haven't talked about already, or double down on anything you already talked about?
Oh my gosh. Let me think. I think just like my biggest thing, and I like talk about Ithaca wherever I go. I think make the most out of the time you have at IC. It was like 4 of the best years of my entire life. And I was at Ithaca during like when COVID hit. But you still like despite like hurdles in the road like that, you make the most out of the opportunity and the people and the staff and the faculty. Like there's just no better place to be, in my opinion. I look so highly upon my time at IC. But with that being said, like make the most out of making those connections while you're there, and like joining different clubs and organizations, because you never know where your network will take you. And I think again that goes back to reaching out to whoever you want on LinkedIn, but make the most out of your time at IC, and because you know it ends faster than you expect, but again, you stay connected to these people for the rest of your lives, and it really is just like the greatest opportunity to be there.
Awesome. As a senior myself, that is great to hear. So,
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so bittersweet, but
oh
there's
yeah,
no better place.
absolutely. Well, Maddie, thank you so much for joining us on the Career Corner today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And folks at home, you do not have to wait for next episode to get career guidance. You can visit Drop-In Hours from 11 to 2, Monday through Friday in Muller Faculty Center 101. I'm Lucas Kauffman, and this has been Career Corner.